How do we actually become a church where miracles matter? Pursue Jesus above all else. Make it your life goal to keep your eyes always fixed on him, because who you become matters more than anything you will do in this life. And who you become will be directly related to what you're focused on. And if you pursue Jesus above all else, as a church, we say it this way: we thirst first for God. Remember, in Jesus' last meal with his disciples before he's arrested and crucified, in John chapter 14, verse 12, he said, "Whoever believes in me will do the works I have been doing, and they will do even greater things than these, because I am going to the Father. Anybody who believes in me will do the things I have been doing." And this has been a universal invitation for all who believe to be able to release the miraculous works of God. It says this in verse 42, "They devoted themselves to the apostles' teaching and to fellowship, to the breaking of bread and to prayer. Everyone was filled with awe at the many wonders and signs performed by the apostles. All the believers were together and had everything in common. They sold their property and possessions to give to anyone who had need." So they were outrageously generous people. Every day they continued to meet together in the temple courts. They did life together. They broke bread in their homes together. They spent time together. They ate together with glad and sincere hearts, praising and enjoying the favor of all the people. The apostles' teaching, what is that? The first disciples were teaching the words and the ways of Jesus. Before it was in print, they were talking about it, and they had scrolls, and they were beginning to write it down. And so you could say for the modern church, they devoted themselves to the words and the ways of Jesus as expressed in the Bible. What does it mean to devote themselves to the words and the ways of Jesus? This word devote has to do with adhering, like gluing yourself, like connecting yourself. You could say orienting yourself around. These early Christians were orienting their entire lifestyle around the words and the ways of Jesus. It wasn't just information. It wasn't just a verse here or there that they tried to memorize or apply to their lives. They were taking their whole lives and they were laying these things in the community of faith, and according to the words and the ways of Jesus, they were allowing the Holy Spirit to shape the way they lived their lives. And what we see the early church doing, not just here, but all through the New Testament, is devoting themselves to the words and the ways of Jesus to the degree that demonstrated to the world an entirely new way of living life. These early disciples were so orienting their lives around the words and the ways of Jesus that it looked beautiful to the world around them, and it stuck out like salt and like light. We read about healing that was released through the church in Ephesus. We read about deliverance that was released through the ministry of the church in Ephesus. And what you discover in the book of Ephesians is he spends the first half of the book trying to remind them why they believe what they believe and the importance of the gospel. And then he spends the second half of the book helping them understand how to live. And really nowhere does he spend a lot of time and energy trying to stir their faith for healing and deliverance and salvation. Like that was happening around them. What Paul was emphasizing in the book of Ephesians is how to be a church where the miracles matter. How to be the type of community that when the miracles happen, they point to the right thing. And the church is intended to reflect the heart of God to the world in the way it lives. With this little encouragement, I urge you to live a life worthy of the calling you have received. And then he goes on to talk about how to live this life. He goes on to talk about humility and compassion and kindness. Like it wasn't until the church came on the scene that people began to live differently. We have the privilege as Westerners of living in a world where people know it's good to tell the truth and to not steal. That came from Jesus. That didn't just come from good thinkers. Paul was encouraging the early church to be life-giving in their speech. He encouraged them to get rid of bitterness and rage and anger, to be kind, compassionate, forgiving. This is completely countercultural in this day. Y'all, this is the kind of teaching the early church was devoting itself to become a different type of person, to living a life that looks a lot like Jesus for the good of others. Because at the core of holiness is a desire to love others more than ourselves. And that's meant to be at the core of the church. At the core of Jesus's words and ways is always self-sacrificial love. And that self-sacrificial love, before he ever even got on the cross, was displayed in the way he lived his life. And the church is called to live the same way. The type of church where miracles matter are not just the type of church where miracles happen. They're the type of church where miracles point to the right thing. And when the miracles point to the self-sacrificial love of God, people will flock to get a piece of it.